So this is the story all about how we met.
So if you don't already know us, I'm Gabby.
And I'm Shanna.
And together we're 27 Travels.
We are a lesbian travel couple based in Brooklyn, New York, and when it's not the pandemic, we are usually traveling around the world, but we've been mostly in New York City for the last year.
With our cat, who's right behind us,
I don't know if
taking
you
a
can
nice
see him.
nap. He's napping.
We always got a lot of questions about how we met and kind of that story, so we wanted to make a YouTube video about it because we've talked about it a little bit on our Instagram, which I will link here, but we haven't ever really told like the full, like in-depth story.
Storybook time, kids. Let's do this.
So I think a good place to start is kind of like even before we met, like what was going through our heads at that time, like what was it like being lesbians in New York City, because we both were living in New York City at that time.
Yeah, set the mood, Shanna. Like we said, this is a story.
I'm gonna set the mood.
She's gonna set the mood. She's gonna give you the setting.
Once upon a time. Me and Gabby met in 2015, and at that point, I had been out for about 6 years. I originally am from Long Island, if you don't already know, but I had moved to New York City when I was about 22, 23. And I have lived there ever since, and I will never go back to Long Island. I couldn't really be my true self until I was in New York City, because New York City is a really accepting place. There are lots of opportunities to meet people. There are a lot of gay bars, lesbian bars, like queer events, things like that. So for me, I didn't really start truly trying to like hang out with girls until I moved to New York City, because I knew there'd be so many more opportunities to do that. So I was on some dating apps like Tinder and OkCupid. For me, the best opportunity to meet girls was going to gay bars in New York City.
Okay, well, I'm from Brooklyn, and at the time I was still living in Brooklyn, but I went to school in the city. I feel like when we met, I was not in college anymore. It was like the year after college.
I think you had like just graduated.
I feel like I had just graduated. I think I was like 21 or 22, and I had been like out for maybe a year or two, because it was definitely around the time where I would go out with my friends a lot. I would go out like to Stonewall, to Cubbyhole a lot. I went a lot.
Cubbyhole is the best.
And I went to Stonewall a lot, and I did meet girls there pretty often. I was on all the dating apps. I felt like after so long being in the closet, like I was ready to date, I was ready to meet people, and I was just ready to like have fun. And I, at that point, had a lot of friends who were really supportive. So, and like friends that I had made in college that were really supportive and always wanted to go out with me, and also were like in our community, and they wanted to go out and meet people too. So we would be each other's like wingmen and wingwomen, and we would like meet people together. So it was a really cool time for me of like trying to meet people. So I think even the day that we met, I was like, I'm gonna meet someone.
So now we're gonna set the scene of like the day we met, because I truly believe this should be like a lesbian movie. So like Hollywood, if you're watching this, please make our story into a movie, because it's very iconic. Okay?
Yeah, create it. We'll watch it.
We don't even have to start it. Just like,
no.
It's just a great story. So basically in 2015 was also when same-sex marriage passed in the United States, and it passed right before New York City Pride, like a few weeks before. So everyone was talking about how exciting this Pride would be, how epic it would be, because now it was legal for same-sex couples to get married all over the entire United States, which wasn't allowed before 2015. So that Pride was super special for that reason. But also, it just happened to be the Pride that Gabby and I met at. So New York City at Pride, all of the gay bars have lines out the door, which is really awesome, because it's like, you know, everyone wants to go out and celebrate. So Cubbyhole is really small to begin with. It's literally like this big. It's like super narrow.
Yeah, people call it like a sardine can.
Yeah.
It literally feels like you're in a sardine can with like tons of other hot lesbians.
But basically, at any gay bar you want to go to on Pride, there's always a line or like a wait to get in. So I was there with some of my friends. We had the same idea. We're like, hey, after the parade, we have to go to Cubbyhole. It's just like the best place ever.
I'm trying to think back to what I was doing that night. At the time, I got my best friend Joanna to go to Pride with me, and I almost never would get her to go to Pride with me. That night, I actually got her to go with me, and we went together, and at some point, I was like, we have to go to Cubbyhole. Like, you have to come to this place. You'll love it. After the parade ended, my friend Joanna and I think my friend Zach at the time, all decided to go into Cubbyhole. And because we were there like a little bit earlier, we didn't get there at like 9 o'clock at night. We literally like walked from the parade and went right away. We did not wait online that long, and it got crowded like as we were there.
I was pretty drunk at the time that we even got to Cubbyhole, because I had been drinking all day, but then also had a few drinks when I was in Cubbyhole. And in comes Gabby.
So like at that point, I saw Shanna. So I'm like, oh, that girl's pretty cute. Like I feel like I want to talk to her. And so I'm kind of like seeing what she's doing, and you were with a bunch of other people at the time. And so I was like, I saw her like separate and go up to the bar on her own, and I was like, I'm gonna go get another drink. Like, I'm gonna try and like say hi to her or something. And I just thought like, oh, I'll get a drink, and like if it naturally conversation happens, it does. And at the time, it was really crowded, so the bartender was taking like a really long time. I made some kind of joke about like the service, or like, wow, you know, like it always takes forever here. It's so hard to get their attention because they were like ignoring you a little bit. And then that's how we just kind of like got to talking a bit. So then we're like getting our drinks. And then after we get our drinks, we just like walk onto like the floor at the area. If you've been to Cubbyhole, there's an area with like a jukebox, and then like the bar's here, and then Shanna and I are like in the middle here talking.
So I was pretty drunk at this point. Like, I definitely remember talking to Gabby. I remember her asking me about my tattoo. I remember her asking me about, like, because at that point I was moving to a new apartment in a different area of Queens. So I remember like telling her about that, but I don't really remember like a lot of our conversation. I just remember that we were like talking for a while. We were having a good time.
When we started talking, it was just like an amazing conversation. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but when you meet someone that you just immediately click with, you just have these like amazing conversations. It feels kind of like you just want to talk forever, and I feel like that's what it felt like when we first started talking. Yeah.
So I could tell that like her friend Joanna kind of wanted to leave. So Gabby was kind of like talking to her, and she told me like, okay, you know, like I have to go, but like before I go, like let's follow each other on Instagram. And I remember thinking that was weird because like usually you would like ask someone for their number. But I was like, oh, okay, like sure, we can follow each other on Instagram, that's fine. So we followed each other, Gabby left, and then I stayed at the bar for a little bit, and then eventually we both went home. So you might think that is where the story ends, but obviously not, because here we are 5 years later. I kind of just was like brushed it off a little bit, and I was just like, oh, okay, like whatever, she was cool, but whatever. So at that time, we were both on dating apps, and one of the dating apps that we both happened to be on was OkCupid. And I remember one day I was at my job, when I used to work a 9 to 5, and I never had my OkCupid notifications on, but like one day I just like checked the app and I got a message from Gabby, and she said something like, hey, I think we met at Pride.
So I saw her in OkCupid, and I still liked her. Like, I was like, oh, she was really cool, like she was really cute. So I messaged her being like, hey, we met at Pride. I just thought it would start conversation, and then from there, if we were like talking and hitting it off, I would ask you out or something.
Yeah.
But the conversation straight up died. Shanna she ghosted me. She gave me the cold shoulder. You ghosted me.
Listen,
she ghosted
okay.
me.
No, listen.
This is ghosting.
I didn't have my OkCupid notifications on, so I just like would never check the app unless I feel like maybe they'll hear that siren. So I didn't have my OkCupid notification on, so I wouldn't check the app, just because like I would have to think like, oh, I want to go on OkCupid, and I just like never really thought to go on again, even though I know Gabby messaged me.
She completely ghosted me and forgot about me and forgot my existence, etc., etc., etc. Never let her live it down.
So that was around October, which is like, we met in June because that's when Pride is. So that was around October. Then a few months later in December is where things really start to like kick into motion a little bit.
I always go visit my family in Curacao around that time of year. So I'm in Curacao at my grandmother's house with my brother and my dad, and we're having a family vacation. And that is when Shanna and I start talking again. Like,
it was right around Christmas time. My roommates and I were having a Christmas party at our apartment, and I had posted a photo in front of our Christmas tree with like this t-shirt that I made that said like, ho ho homo. I like painted it on with like t-shirt paint.
You can insert that photo.
Oh my god, I really?
Right here.
I will. I'll insert it. So then like a few days later, I like checked my Instagram again, and I realized that Gabby commented on the photo.
So my brother was like, if you think she's cute, just like straight up text, like comment. And I was like, okay, I'll comment. And so I commented, and that's what Shanna's talking about, that she saw. Something like, wow, that's so cute. I don't know.
Well, you'll see it here because I have the screenshot. So that same day, I was FaceTiming with my best friend Caro, who lives in Sweden. So when I see Gabby's comment, I'm on FaceTime with Caro, and I'm like, Caro, this girl from Pride just like commented back on my photo. Like, what should I do? And we were debating like, oh, like I could comment back, but like, should I DM her? Should I not DM her? Like, what should I do about it? So Caro was like, I say you just DM her, like go for it. So I was like, okay. So I DM'd Gabby, and I have the screenshots of that too, so I'll put those in here. I think
it's so embarrassing on my side. She messaged me, and I was like, oh my god, she messaged me. She must be interested too. I'm gonna ask her out. My brother definitely helped a lot in that regard, because we were like talking, and he was just like, do it. Do it, ask her out. Like, if she likes you, she'll say yes, and she did, so.
So Gabby asked me out when she came back from Curacao, and then it was like a few weeks later when she was back, we went on our first date, and here we are, 5 years later.
Should we tell the story of our first date? I feel like we're here already.
No, let's save that for a different video. If you want to hear about our first date, we'll make another video about it, but you have to let us know in the comments.
Yeah, honestly, if you thought our meeting story was fun, our first date story is pretty crazy too. To be honest with you. It was a pretty epic date. It was like a long date.
But yeah, so that is the story of how we met. Pretty iconic, if I do say so myself. Thanks so much for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about our little lesbian love story. And we will see you soon with another video.
Bye.